Do you know that the world's first university was founded over 2,400 years ago in ancient, where we uncover fascinating stories from history and beyond? Today, we'll explore Plato's Academy, a groundbreaking institution that revolutionized education and philosophy, leaving a legacy that still inspires us today. Part 1. The birth of Plato's Academy. The 4th century BCE was a time of remarkable intellectual activity in Athens, where thinkers and philosophers gathered to exchange ideas in an environment of curiosity and exploration. Socrates, one of the most influential figures of this era, had laid the groundwork for critical thinking and philosophical inquiry. His unique method of questioning assumptions and challenging beliefs earned him followers and adversaries alike, but his trial and execution in 399 BCE left a void in the philosophical landscape of Athens. Among those most profoundly affected by Socrates' death was his student Plato, who resolved to preserve his mentor's teachings and carry forward the intellectual legacy he had left behind. Plato's response to this tragedy was not limited to writing dialogues immortalizing Socrates' teachings. Around 387 BCE, he took a bold step to institutionalize the pursuit of wisdom and the search for truth by establishing a formal place for learning. This institution, known as the Academy, was located in a sacred grove outside Athens' city walls, dedicated to the hero Academus. The choice of location was deliberate, as the grove had long been associated with tranquility and reflection, qualities Plato believed were essential for the philosophical life. With this act, Plato not only created a space for intellectual engagement, but also laid the foundation for what many regard as the first university in Western history. The Academy was not merely a school in the conventional sense. Unlike other educational spaces in Athens, which focused on teaching rhetoric or specific skills for public life, the Academy aimed to cultivate a love for knowledge in its most expansive form. Plato envisioned it as a community of thinkers who would gather to engage in dialogue, question existing beliefs, and explore the nature of reality. The emphasis was not on rote learning or the accumulation of facts, but on developing a deeper understanding of universal truths. Plato's vision for the Academy was deeply influenced by his experiences with Socrates and his own philosophical journey. He had traveled extensively in his youth, visiting places such as Egypt and Italy, where he encountered diverse ideas and practices that shaped his worldview. These travels exposed him to mathematical traditions, religious philosophies, and systems of governance that contrasted sharply with those of Athens. By synthesizing these influences, Plato created a curriculum for the Academy that reflected his commitment to blending theoretical knowledge with practical inquiry. While Plato's personal influence was paramount, the Academy was designed to be a dynamic institution where students and teachers alike could contribute to the intellectual discourse. The method of teaching was based on dialogue and debate, a reflection of Plato's belief that knowledge could only be attained through the rigorous exchange of ideas. There were no rigid hierarchies or formalized syllabi, allowing for an organic and fluid approach to learning. The Academy thus became a melting pot of ideas, attracting students from diverse backgrounds and fostering a culture of collaboration and mutual respect. The early years of the Academy were marked by an intense focus on philosophical questions, particularly those concerning the nature of knowledge, justice, and the ideal society. Plato's writings, such as The Republic and The Symposium, were likely central texts for discussion, providing a foundation for students to grapple with complex ideas. Mathematics and geometry were also integral to the Academy's activities, as Plato believed these disciplines were key to understanding the deeper principles governing the universe. This emphasis on abstraction and theory distinguished the Academy from other schools of the time, which were more focused on practical skills and rhetorical training. One of the defining features of the Academy was its openness to new ideas and perspectives. Plato encouraged his students to challenge his teachings and to develop their own lines of inquiry, fostering a spirit of intellectual independence. This approach not only enriched the philosophical discussions within the Academy, but also ensured its relevance and vitality over time. The Academy's reputation quickly spread beyond Athens, attracting thinkers from across the Greek world who sought to learn from Plato and his followers. Among the Academy's early students were figures who would go on to leave a lasting impact on philosophy and other fields. Aristotle, perhaps the most famous of them all, joined the Academy as a young man and spent over 2 decades there. Although Aristotle would eventually diverge from Plato's teachings, founding his own school, the Lyceum, his work remained deeply influenced by the intellectual foundation he received at the Academy. This interplay of continuity and innovation was emblematic of the Academy's approach, which valued tradition while remaining open to evolution. Plato's establishment of the Academy was not without challenges. Athens was a city rife with political turmoil and philosophical rivalries, and the Academy had to navigate these complexities to maintain its independence and focus. Plato himself was deeply engaged with the politics of his time, often reflecting on the tensions between philosophy and governance. His failed attempt to implement his philosophical ideas in the political realm of Syracuse served as a sobering reminder of the challenges of translating theory into practice. Yet, these experiences also enriched his teachings, providing a nuanced perspective on the relationship between thought and action. The Academy was also shaped by the cultural and religious context of Athens. The sacred grove where it was established carried spiritual significance, and the Academy's activities were seen as part of a broader tradition of seeking wisdom and enlightenment. This connection to the divine was further reinforced by Plato's philosophical doctrines, which often linked the pursuit of knowledge to the quest for spiritual fulfillment. The blending of rational inquiry with metaphysical exploration gave the Academy a unique character, setting it apart from other intellectual institutions of the time. As the Academy grew, it became a symbol of Athens' intellectual vitality and a beacon for those seeking to understand the complexities of the human experience. Its influence extended far beyond its physical location, shaping the course of Western philosophy and laying the groundwork for future generations of thinkers. The principles that guided the Academy, dialogue, critical thinking, and the pursuit of universal truths, continue to resonate in educational and philosophical traditions to this day. By establishing the Academy, Plato not only honored the legacy of Socrates, but also created a space where ideas could flourish and evolve. It was a bold experiment in education, one that sought to balance the theoretical and the practical, the individual and the collective. The Academy's enduring legacy is a testament to Plato's vision and to the transformative power of philosophy as a way of life. Part 2. Structure and Organization of the Academy. Plato's Academy was a revolutionary concept in its structure and organization, breaking away from the conventional models of education prevalent in ancient Greece. Unlike the sophists, who often charged high fees for imparting rhetorical skills or practical knowledge, the Academy was not primarily a commercial venture. Instead, it functioned as a philosophical community where thinkers could gather to discuss ideas, question assumptions, and engage in intellectual debates. It was a place where the pursuit of truth took precedence over material or political gains. This distinctive approach allowed the Academy to attract individuals who were genuinely passionate about learning and discovery. The physical layout of the Academy contributed to its unique character. Located in a serene grove just outside Athens, the Academy was surrounded by gardens, open spaces, and shaded walkways that encouraged reflection and discussion. This setting was in stark contrast to the bustling city, providing an environment conducive to contemplation and intellectual exchange. The grove's association with the hero Academus added a layer of sanctity to the place, reinforcing its role as a space dedicated to higher pursuits. The natural surroundings became an integral part of the Academy's identity, symbolizing the harmony between nature and the search for wisdom. Unlike modern universities, the Academy did not have formal classrooms or lecture halls. Discussions and lessons often took place outdoors, under the shade of trees, or in informal gatherings within the grove. This flexible approach to teaching allowed for a dynamic exchange of ideas, where students could engage directly with their mentors and peers. The lack of rigid hierarchies or predetermined schedules fostered an atmosphere of collaboration and mutual respect. Students were encouraged to ask questions, challenge existing ideas, and develop their own philosophical perspectives. The leadership of the Academy was another distinguishing feature. While Plato was undoubtedly the central figure, he did not position himself as an authoritarian leader. Instead, he viewed himself as a guide or facilitator, helping his students explore complex philosophical concepts. After Plato's death, the leadership of the Academy passed to his nephew, Speusippus, followed by other notable philosophers such as Xenocrates, Polemon, and Crates. This tradition of succession ensured that the Academy remained a vibrant intellectual institution, adapting to new ideas and challenges over time. One of the most striking aspects of the Academy was its openness to individuals from diverse backgrounds. Students and scholars from across the Greek world and beyond were drawn to the Academy, creating a rich tapestry of cultural and intellectual exchange. This diversity not only enriched the philosophical discussions within the Academy, but also helped to disseminate its ideas far and wide. The absence of strict entry requirements or rigid curricula made the Academy accessible to those who were genuinely committed to the pursuit of knowledge. The Academy's activities were not limited to philosophy. While the exploration of metaphysical and ethical questions was central to its mission, the Academy also delved into subjects such as mathematics, astronomy, and the natural sciences. Plato believed that a well-rounded education was essential for understanding the world and achieving a harmonious existence. This interdisciplinary approach set the academy apart from other institutions of its time, which often focused narrowly on specific disciplines. Mathematics, in particular, held a special place in the academy's curriculum. Plato viewed mathematical concepts as a bridge between the physical world and the abstract realm of forms. He argued that understanding geometry and numbers could lead to a deeper comprehension of universal truths. This emphasis on mathematics influenced not only the academy's teachings, but also the development of mathematical thought in the Western tradition. The famous inscription at the entrance of the academy, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter here," underscored the importance Plato placed on this discipline. The academy's organizational structure also reflected its philosophical principles. Plato believed that true learning could only occur through dialogue and interaction. This belief was embodied in the academy's teaching methods, which relied heavily on the Socratic method of questioning and discussion. Rather than delivering lectures or prescribing texts, Plato and his successors engaged students in conversations, challenging them to think critically and examine their own assumptions. This approach not only deepened students' understanding of philosophical concepts, but also encouraged intellectual independence and creativity. Despite its informal structure, the academy maintained a sense of purpose and direction. Its activities were guided by a shared commitment to the pursuit of truth and the betterment of the human condition. This sense of mission created a cohesive community of scholars who were united by their dedication to philosophical inquiry. The academy became a model for future institutions of learning, demonstrating that education could be both rigorous and collaborative. The academy's emphasis on intellectual freedom and exploration set it apart from other schools of its time. While sophists and rhetoricians often focused on practical skills or persuasion, the academy aimed to cultivate a deeper understanding of the world and the self. This broader vision of education resonated with students and scholars, many of whom went on to make significant contributions to philosophy, science, and politics. The academy's influence extended far beyond its physical boundaries, shaping the intellectual landscape of the ancient world and laying the groundwork for future generations of thinkers. The academy's structure and organization were also reflective of Plato's broader philosophical ideals. He viewed education as a lifelong process of growth and self-discovery, rather than a finite journey with a predetermined endpoint. This perspective was evident in the academy's approach to teaching, which encouraged students to continue questioning and learning even after leaving the institution. The academy thus became a beacon of intellectual curiosity, inspiring individuals to pursue knowledge for its own sake. The flexible and inclusive nature of the academy allowed it to adapt to changing circumstances and evolving ideas. Over time, the institution became a hub of intellectual activity, attracting not only philosophers but also scientists, mathematicians, and other scholars. This interdisciplinary approach ensured that the academy remained relevant and dynamic, constantly pushing the boundaries of human understanding. The academy's legacy is a testament to the enduring power of education as a force for personal and societal transformation. In summary, the structure and organization of Plato's academy were groundbreaking, setting a new standard for educational institutions in the ancient world. Its emphasis on dialogue, diversity, and intellectual freedom created an environment where ideas could flourish and evolve. By fostering a community of scholars dedicated to the pursuit of truth, the academy laid the foundation for future generations of thinkers and institutions. Its impact on philosophy, mathematics, and education continues to resonate, demonstrating the timeless value of a commitment to knowledge and understanding. Part 3. The Academy's Curriculum and Teaching Methods. Plato's academy was not a typical school with a fixed syllabus or a rigid curriculum. Instead, it was a dynamic space for intellectual engagement, where the focus was on exploring questions rather than memorizing answers. The absence of formalized instruction allowed students and teachers to tailor their learning experiences to the interests and needs of the moment. This flexible approach fostered an environment of creativity and inquiry that was unparalleled in the ancient world. At the heart of the academy's teaching methods was the Socratic method, a form of dialogue and questioning designed to stimulate critical thinking and uncover underlying truths. Plato, drawing from the teachings of Socrates, encouraged his students to question assumptions and examine the foundations of their beliefs. The process involved asking a series of probing questions that challenged conventional wisdom and led to deeper understanding. This method not only helped students develop their reasoning skills, but also instilled a sense of intellectual humility, as they came to recognize the limits of their knowledge. The curriculum of the academy was wide-ranging, covering subjects that span philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, ethics, and the natural sciences. Plato believed that a well-rounded education was essential for cultivating wisdom and virtue. Philosophy served as the cornerstone of the curriculum, providing a framework for exploring the fundamental questions of existence, knowledge, and morality. However, the inclusion of other disciplines reflected Plato's belief in the interconnectedness of all fields of knowledge. Mathematics was a particularly significant part of the Academy's curriculum. Plato viewed mathematical concepts as a bridge between the physical world and the realm of abstract forms. He argued that mathematics offered a glimpse into the eternal and unchanging truths that underpin the material universe. Geometry, in particular, was emphasized, as Plato believed it cultivated logical thinking and a sense of order. The Academy's focus on mathematics was so central that the famous inscription, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter here," was said to adorn its entrance. This statement symbolized the importance of mathematical understanding as a prerequisite for engaging with higher philosophical concepts. Astronomy was another key area of study at the Academy. Plato regarded the movements of celestial bodies as manifestations of divine order, reflecting the harmony of the cosmos. By studying the stars and planets, students could gain insights into the principles that govern the universe. This interest in astronomy was not purely theoretical. It also had practical implications, as it informed navigation, agriculture, and timekeeping. The integration of astronomy into the curriculum demonstrated the Academy's commitment to blending abstract inquiry with practical knowledge. Ethics and political philosophy were also central to the Academy's teachings. Plato's dialogues, such as the Republic and the Laws, explored questions of justice, governance, and the ideal society. Students at the Academy were encouraged to grapple with these ideas, considering how philosophical principles could be applied to real-world problems. This focus on ethics and politics reflected Plato's belief that philosophy was not just an intellectual pursuit, but also a guide for living a virtuous and meaningful life. The Academy thus became a space for training leaders and thinkers who could contribute to the betterment of society. The teaching methods at the Academy were highly interactive and collaborative. Discussions often took the form of debates, where students would present arguments and counterarguments on a given topic. This process of dialectical reasoning helped students refine their ideas and develop a deeper understanding of the issues at hand. Teachers acted as facilitators, guiding the discussions and providing insights without imposing their views. This egalitarian approach to learning fostered a sense of community and mutual respect among participants. Plato's use of written dialogues as teaching tools was another innovative aspect of the Academy's curriculum. These dialogues, which often featured Socrates as the main character, presented philosophical ideas in a conversational format that mirrored the Academy's emphasis on dialogue and inquiry. Students would read and analyze these texts, using them as a basis for discussion and further exploration. The dialogues not only conveyed philosophical concepts but also modeled the process of critical thinking and intellectual engagement. The Academy's curriculum also reflected Plato's interest in metaphysics and the nature of reality. Central to his teachings was the theory of forms, which posited that the material world was a shadow of a higher, more perfect reality composed of eternal and unchanging forms. Students were encouraged to contemplate these abstract ideals, such as beauty, justice, and goodness, and to consider how they related to the physical world. This exploration of metaphysical questions helped students develop a deeper appreciation for the complexities of existence and the pursuit of truth. While philosophy and theoretical inquiry were central to the Academy's mission, practical knowledge was not overlooked. Subjects such as music, rhetoric, and physical education were also part of the curriculum, reflecting the Greek ideal of a well-rounded education. Plato believed that cultivating the body and the emotions was as important as developing the mind. This holistic approach to education aimed to produce individuals who were balanced, virtuous, and capable of contributing to society in meaningful ways. The Academy's interdisciplinary approach was one of its greatest strengths. By integrating diverse fields of study, it encouraged students to see connections between different areas of knowledge and to approach problems from multiple perspectives. This emphasis on intellectual synthesis helped lay the groundwork for many of the scientific and philosophical advances that would emerge in subsequent centuries. The Academy thus became a model for how education could foster creativity, critical thinking, and a sense of wonder. The open and exploratory nature of the Academy's curriculum allowed it to adapt and evolve over time. As new ideas and discoveries emerged, they were incorporated into the Academy's teachings, ensuring that it remained at the forefront of intellectual inquiry. This adaptability was a key factor in the Academy's enduring influence, as it demonstrated the value of continuous learning and the willingness to challenge established paradigms. In summary, the Academy's curriculum and teaching methods were revolutionary, combining rigorous philosophical inquiry with a broad, interdisciplinary approach to education. By emphasizing dialogue, critical thinking, and the pursuit of universal truths, the Academy created a model for learning that continues to inspire educational institutions to this day. Its legacy is a testament to the transformative power of knowledge and the enduring importance of cultivating a love for learning. Part 4. The role of mathematics in the Academy. Mathematics occupied a central place in the curriculum and philosophy of Plato's Academy. For Plato, mathematics was not merely a practical tool or a field of study, but a gateway to understanding higher truths. It was through the discipline of mathematics that students could begin to grasp the eternal and unchanging forms, which Plato believed to be the ultimate reality. This profound belief in the power of mathematics shaped the teachings at the Academy and influenced the course of Western thought for centuries. Plato's fascination with mathematics stemmed from his philosophical worldview. He saw the material world as imperfect and transient, a mere shadow of the ideal, eternal world of forms. Mathematics, with its abstract and precise nature, seemed to provide a bridge between these two realms. Unlike the sensory world, which was subject to change and decay, mathematical truths were constant and universal. For Plato, the study of mathematics was not just an intellectual exercise but a form of spiritual training, preparing the mind to perceive the higher realities. The emphasis on mathematics was evident from the very entrance of the Academy. The inscription, "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter here," famously adorned its gateway, signaling the fundamental role of geometry in the pursuit of wisdom. Geometry, for Plato, was more than a branch of mathematics. It was a way of thinking that cultivated precision, logical reasoning, and a sense of order. By studying geometric principles, students learned to appreciate the harmony and structure underlying the natural world. This emphasis on geometry reflected Plato's belief that the cosmos itself was governed by mathematical principles. In the Academy, mathematics was taught not as an isolated discipline but as an integral part of a broader philosophical education. Students began their mathematical studies with basic arithmetic and geometry, progressing to more advanced topics such as astronomy and harmonics. These subjects were seen as interconnected, forming part of the quadrivium, a set of 4 disciplines that later became the foundation of medieval education. Arithmetic and geometry dealt with numbers and spatial relationships, while astronomy and harmonics explored their applications in the cosmos and music. This holistic approach to mathematics demonstrated its relevance to both the physical and metaphysical realms. Astronomy, in particular, held a special place within the Academy's mathematical curriculum. Plato believed that the movements of celestial bodies reflected the divine order of the universe. By studying the stars and planets, students could gain insights into the principles that governed both the heavens and the earth. This interest in astronomy was not purely speculative. It also had practical applications, such as improving navigation and timekeeping. Plato's dialogues, particularly the Timaeus, explored the relationship between mathematics and cosmology, offering a vision of the universe as a harmonious and ordered whole. Harmonics, the study of musical ratios and the mathematical principles underlying sound, was another important aspect of the Academy's mathematical teachings. Plato and his followers viewed music as a reflection of cosmic harmony, governed by the same mathematical laws that structure the universe. By studying harmonics, students could develop an appreciation for the interplay between mathematics and aesthetics. This interdisciplinary approach to mathematics enriched the Academy's curriculum, fostering a deeper understanding of the connections between different fields of knowledge. The Academy's emphasis on mathematics was not limited to theoretical inquiry. Practical applications of mathematics were also explored, particularly in the fields of engineering and architecture. The principles of geometry and measurement were essential for constructing buildings, designing tools, and solving everyday problems. This balance between theory and practice demonstrated the versatility of mathematics and its importance in both intellectual and practical pursuits. Plato's belief in the transformative power of mathematics was reflected in his dialogues, where mathematical concepts often played a central role. In the Republic, for example, he argued that the study of mathematics was essential for the education of philosopher-kings. Mathematics, he claimed, trained the mind to think abstractly and to discern patterns and relationships. This ability to think in terms of principles and structures was crucial for understanding the complexities of governance and justice. The philosopher-king, guided by mathematical reasoning, would be better equipped to rule with wisdom and fairness. The Academy's focus on mathematics also influenced its approach to pedagogy. Students were encouraged to engage with mathematical problems not through rote memorization but through active exploration and problem-solving. Teachers acted as facilitators, guiding students as they worked through geometric proofs or solved complex equations. This hands-on approach helped students develop critical thinking skills and a deeper understanding of mathematical concepts. The emphasis on reasoning and discovery reflected the Academy's broader commitment to intellectual independence and inquiry. The impact of the Academy's mathematical teachings extended far beyond its walls. Plato's emphasis on the abstract and universal nature of mathematics influenced subsequent generations of philosophers, scientists, and mathematicians. Aristotle, although he diverged from many of Plato's ideas, incorporated mathematical reasoning into his own work on logic and natural philosophy. Later thinkers, such as Euclid and Pythagoras, built upon the mathematical foundations laid by the Academy, advancing the field and solidifying its importance in the Western intellectual tradition. One of the Academy's most enduring contributions was its role in establishing mathematics as a central discipline in education. By integrating mathematics into its curriculum, the Academy demonstrated the value of mathematical knowledge for understanding the world and solving practical problems. This emphasis on mathematics laid the groundwork for its inclusion in the liberal arts tradition, which shaped the educational systems of the medieval and modern eras. The Academy's influence can thus be seen in the continued importance of mathematics in contemporary education and research. Plato's integration of mathematics into the Academy's philosophy also had a profound impact on the development of science. The emphasis on logical reasoning and abstract thinking provided a methodological foundation for scientific inquiry. By treating mathematics as a tool for understanding the natural world, the Academy paved the way for the scientific revolution and the emergence of modern physics, astronomy, and engineering. The legacy of this approach is evident in the works of figures such as Galileo, Newton, and Einstein, who relied on mathematical principles to unlock the secrets of the universe. In summary, mathematics was not just a subject of study at Plato's Academy. It was a cornerstone of its philosophy and pedagogy. By emphasizing the abstract, universal nature of mathematical truths, Plato demonstrated their relevance to both the physical and metaphysical realms. The Academy's interdisciplinary approach to mathematics enriched its curriculum and inspired generations of thinkers, shaping the course of Western intellectual history. Its legacy continues to resonate, reminding us of the enduring power of mathematics to reveal the beauty and order of the cosmos. Part 5. The influence of Plato's theory of forms. The theory of forms was the cornerstone of Plato's philosophy and a central concept in the teachings of the Academy. Plato introduced this idea to explain the nature of reality, arguing that the material world we perceive with our senses is only a shadow of a higher, unchanging realm of perfect entities, which he called the forms. These forms were abstract, eternal, and immutable, representing the true essence of things like beauty, justice, equality, and goodness. Plato believed that by contemplating the forms, one could access a deeper understanding of the universe and the ultimate nature of existence. At the Academy, the theory of forms served as the foundation for much of the philosophical discourse. Students were encouraged to explore the implications of this theory in various areas, including ethics, politics, mathematics, and metaphysics. The forms were seen as the ultimate objects of knowledge, and the pursuit of understanding them was considered the highest goal of philosophical inquiry. This focus on the abstract and ideal distinguished the Academy from other schools of the time, which were often more concerned with practical or empirical knowledge. One of the key aspects of the theory of forms was its distinction between the world of appearances and the world of reality. Plato argued that the sensory world, with all its imperfections and inconsistencies, was a mere reflection of the perfect and eternal forms. For example, a beautiful painting might evoke a sense of beauty, but it was only an imperfect representation of the ideal form of beauty. By studying philosophy and engaging in deep contemplation, one could move beyond the deceptive appearances of the material world and access the unchanging truths of the forms. The allegory of the cave, presented in the Republic, was one of Plato's most famous illustrations of the theory of forms. In this allegory, he described a group of prisoners who had been chained in a cave their entire lives, able to see only shadows cast on the wall before them. These shadows, Plato explained, represented the world of appearances, while the objects casting the shadows were the forms. The journey out of the cave, into the light of the sun, symbolized the philosopher's ascent to the world of forms and the attainment of true knowledge. This powerful metaphor became a central theme in the teachings of the Academy, inspiring students to seek enlightenment and strive for a deeper understanding of reality. The ethical implications of the theory of forms were also a significant focus of study at the Academy. Plato believed that understanding the form of goodness was essential for living a virtuous life and creating a just society. He argued that true morality could not be based on subjective opinions or societal conventions, but must be grounded in the unchanging and universal form of the good. This idea influenced the Academy's approach to ethics, encouraging students to reflect on the nature of virtue and the principles that should guide human behavior. The political applications of the theory of forms were particularly evident in Plato's vision of the ideal state, as described in the Republic. Plato argued that the rulers of a just society should be philosopher-kings, individuals who had attained knowledge of the forms and were thus uniquely qualified to govern wisely. The philosopher-king, guided by the form of the good, would prioritize the well-being of the state and its citizens over personal interests or ambitions. This vision of governance, rooted in the pursuit of higher truths, became a topic of intense discussion and debate at the Academy. The influence of the theory of forms extended to the Academy's approach to mathematics and science. Plato believed that mathematical concepts, such as numbers and geometric shapes, were among the clearest examples of forms. Unlike physical objects, which could be flawed or inconsistent, mathematical entities were perfect and eternal. By studying mathematics, students at the Academy could train their minds to recognize the patterns and principles that underpinned the universe. This focus on abstraction and idealization was a defining feature of the Academy's curriculum, shaping its intellectual pursuits and setting it apart from other educational institutions of the time. The theory of forms also played a key role in the Academy's metaphysical inquiries. Plato's ideas about the relationship between the material world and the realm of forms raised profound questions about the nature of existence, causality, and knowledge. Students were encouraged to grapple with these questions, exploring topics such as the immortality of the soul, the nature of perception, and the origins of the universe. This emphasis on metaphysical exploration reflected the Academy's commitment to understanding the fundamental principles of reality. Critics of the theory of forms, including some of Plato's own students, challenged its assumptions and implications. Aristotle, for instance, rejected the idea of separate and independent forms, arguing instead that the essence of things could be found within the objects themselves. This divergence of views led to rich debates at the Academy, as students and teachers grappled with competing perspectives on the nature of reality. These discussions not only enriched the intellectual life of the Academy, but also contributed to the evolution of philosophical thought in the ancient world. The theory of forms also had a profound impact on the Academy's spiritual teachings. Plato saw the pursuit of the forms as a kind of intellectual and moral ascent, one that brought the soul closer to the divine. This idea resonated with the religious and mystical traditions of the time, influencing the Academy's approach to questions of faith, spirituality, and the meaning of life. The integration of philosophical and spiritual inquiry created a holistic approach to education that addressed both the intellectual and emotional dimensions of human experience. The enduring legacy of the theory of forms is evident in its influence on later philosophical and theological traditions. Neoplatonism, a philosophical movement that emerged in the 3rd century CE, expanded on Plato's ideas, emphasizing the mystical and spiritual dimensions of the forms. Thinkers such as Plotinus and Proclus drew heavily from the teachings of the Academy, using the theory of forms as a foundation for their own explorations of metaphysics and the divine. This continued relevance of the theory of forms underscores its significance as one of the most profound and enduring contributions of Plato and his Academy to Western thought. In summary, the theory of forms was more than just a philosophical concept. It was a guiding principle for the intellectual and ethical pursuits of Plato's Academy. By encouraging students to contemplate the higher realities of the forms, the Academy fostered a spirit of inquiry that transcended the material world. The theory of forms influenced every aspect of the Academy's teachings, from ethics and politics to mathematics and metaphysics, shaping its curriculum and philosophy. Its legacy continues to inspire and challenge thinkers, reminding us of the enduring quest for truth and understanding. Part 6. The Academy's Impact on Greek Philosophy. The establishment of Plato's Academy marked a turning point in the history of Greek philosophy, reshaping how knowledge was pursued and creating a legacy that would influence intellectual traditions for centuries. Before the Academy, philosophy in ancient Greece had largely been the domain of individual thinkers such as Socrates, Pythagoras, and Heraclitus. While these figures profoundly shaped philosophical discourse, their teachings were often fragmented, transmitted orally or through scattered writings. The Academy institutionalized philosophy, providing a dedicated space where ideas could be systematically explored, preserved, and developed. One of the most immediate impacts of the Academy was its role in fostering a community of scholars and students. By bringing together individuals from diverse backgrounds, the Academy created an environment where philosophical dialogue flourished. This emphasis on collaboration and debate allowed for the cross-pollination of ideas, enriching the intellectual life of Athens and beyond. Plato's method of teaching, which relied on dialogue and critical questioning, encouraged students to think deeply and independently, laying the groundwork for a tradition of rigorous philosophical inquiry. The Academy's influence on Greek philosophy can be seen in its direct contributions to various fields of thought. Ethics, politics, metaphysics, epistemology, and aesthetics all benefited from the discussions and teachings that took place within its walls. Plato's emphasis on the interconnectedness of knowledge inspired his students to approach these subjects holistically, recognizing the relationships between different areas of inquiry. This integrated approach not only deepened understanding but also set the stage for the development of new philosophical systems. Aristotle, one of the Academy's most famous students, exemplified this influence. Spending over 20 years at the Academy, Aristotle absorbed its teachings before developing his own philosophical framework. While he diverged from Plato on key points, rejecting the theory of forms and emphasizing empirical observation, Aristotle's work was deeply rooted in the methods and principles he encountered at the Academy. His focus on categorization, logical analysis, and systematic exploration of the natural world reflected the Academy's commitment to intellectual rigor. Aristotle's establishment of the Lyceum, a rival school, demonstrated how the Academy's model of institutionalized learning could inspire the creation of similar institutions. The Academy's emphasis on ethics and political philosophy had a profound impact on Greek thought. Plato's exploration of justice, virtue, and the ideal state, as presented in works like The Republic and the Laws, influenced discussions on governance and morality for generations. The concept of the philosopher-king, rooted in Plato's belief in the primacy of knowledge and wisdom, challenged traditional notions of power and leadership. These ideas sparked debates about the role of philosophy in public life, encouraging thinkers to consider how abstract principles could be applied to practical governance. Beyond ethics and politics, the Academy played a pivotal role in advancing metaphysical and epistemological inquiries. Plato's exploration of the nature of reality, the distinction between the sensory and intellectual worlds, and the search for universal truths provided a foundation for subsequent philosophical developments. The Academy's focus on these questions inspired other schools, such as the Stoics and Epicureans, to engage with similar themes, even as they developed alternative perspectives. This dialogue among philosophical traditions enriched the intellectual landscape of ancient Greece, creating a vibrant and dynamic exchange of ideas. The Academy's contributions to mathematics and science further illustrate its impact on Greek philosophy. Plato's belief in the centrality of mathematics to understanding the universe influenced not only his own teachings but also those of his students and successors. The integration of geometry, astronomy, and harmonics into the curriculum demonstrated how abstract principles could illuminate the workings of the natural world. This emphasis on mathematical reasoning laid the groundwork for the later scientific achievements of figures such as Euclid, Archimedes, and Ptolemy. The Academy's approach to science and mathematics highlighted the importance of theoretical inquiry as a complement to empirical observation. The Academy also influenced the methodology of philosophical inquiry. Plato's use of dialectical reasoning, as exemplified in his dialogues, became a hallmark of Greek philosophy. This method, which involved examining ideas through structured arguments and counterarguments, encouraged a disciplined and systematic approach to intellectual exploration. By training students in this method, the Academy ensured that philosophical discussions were grounded in logic and critical analysis. This emphasis on method and reasoning had a lasting impact on the development of philosophical traditions in Greece and beyond. The Academy's role in shaping Greek philosophy extended beyond its immediate intellectual contributions. By institutionalizing the study of philosophy, the Academy helped to elevate its status within Greek society. Philosophy was no longer seen as the domain of isolated thinkers or mere rhetorical skill. It became a respected and integral part of education and public discourse. This shift in perception allowed philosophy to exert greater influence on cultural, political, and scientific developments in the ancient world. The legacy of the Academy's impact on Greek philosophy can also be seen in its influence on later philosophical schools. The Skeptical Academy, which emerged in the Hellenistic period, adapted and transformed Plato's teachings to address new challenges and questions. While these later iterations of the Academy departed from some of Plato's original ideas, they remained rooted in the intellectual traditions he established. This continuity demonstrated the adaptability and resilience of the Academy's approach, ensuring its relevance across changing historical contexts. The Academy's contributions to Greek philosophy were not limited to Athens or even Greece. Its ideas spread throughout the Mediterranean world, influencing intellectual centers in Alexandria, Rome, and beyond. The translation and study of Plato's works in subsequent centuries ensured that the Academy's teachings continued to shape philosophical thought long after its physical closure. The dissemination of these ideas laid the groundwork for the later development of Neoplatonism, which sought to synthesize Platonic philosophy with other metaphysical and theological traditions. In summary, the Academy's impact on Greek philosophy was profound and multifaceted. By institutionalizing the study of philosophy, fostering rigorous dialogue, and addressing fundamental questions about ethics, metaphysics, and knowledge, the Academy shaped the intellectual trajectory of the ancient world. Its influence extended to its students, rival schools, and the broader cultural and philosophical traditions of Greece. The Academy's legacy continues to resonate, demonstrating the enduring power of Plato's vision and the transformative potential of philosophical inquiry. Part 7. The Role of the Academy in Political Thought. The Academy was not only a center of philosophical and scientific inquiry, but also a hub for exploring the principles of governance, justice, and political ethics. Plato's vision of the ideal society, as articulated in his works like The Republic and the Laws, was a cornerstone of the Academy's curriculum and a major area of intellectual focus. This emphasis on political thought reflected Plato's belief that philosophy was not an abstract discipline detached from the world, but a practical guide for creating a just and harmonious society. One of the central tenets of Plato's political philosophy was the idea that governance should be entrusted to those who possess true knowledge and wisdom. In The Republic, he famously argued for the concept of the philosopher-king, a ruler who would be guided by reason and the pursuit of the common good. Plato believed that only those who had ascended to an understanding of the form of the good were capable of making decisions that would benefit society as a whole. This vision of leadership challenged traditional notions of power, which were often based on wealth, birthright, or military strength. At the Academy, this concept became a focal point for discussion, inspiring students to consider the ethical responsibilities of rulers and the relationship between knowledge and authority. The Academy's engagement with political thought extended beyond theoretical discussions. Plato himself attempted to implement his ideas in the real world, most notably through his involvement with the rulers of Syracuse. Invited by Dion, a student of the Academy and advisor to the tyrant Dionysius I, Plato sought to influence the governance of the city-state by promoting his philosophical principles. However, his efforts were met with resistance and ultimately failed, leading to a period of captivity and disillusionment. This experience, while personally challenging for Plato, enriched the Academy's exploration of the complexities of political reform and the tensions between idealism and practicality. Students at the Academy were encouraged to analyze and critique existing political systems, comparing them to the ideal state described in Plato's works. These discussions often revolved around the characteristics of justice, the distribution of power, and the role of education in shaping virtuous citizens. Plato's belief in the transformative power of education was a recurring theme, as he argued that the moral and intellectual development of individuals was essential for the stability and prosperity of society. This emphasis on education as a foundation for governance influenced the Academy's broader pedagogical approach, which aimed to cultivate not only knowledge but also ethical character. The Academy's teachings on political thought were deeply intertwined with its exploration of ethics. Plato believed that the principles of justice and governance could not be understood in isolation from questions of morality and human nature. For example, in The Republic, he drew parallels between the structure of the soul and the structure of the state, arguing that harmony in both required a proper balance of reason, spirit, and desire. This holistic perspective encouraged students to think critically about the connections between individual virtue and societal well-being. The influence of the Academy's political thought extended far beyond its immediate circle of students and scholars. Plato's writings, disseminated throughout the Greek world, inspired debates about governance, law, and justice in other city-states. His ideas about the philosopher-king and the role of education in shaping rulers influenced subsequent philosophical traditions, including Stoicism and Neoplatonism. These schools of thought, in turn, contributed to the development of political theory in the Roman Empire and the medieval period. Aristotle, one of the Academy's most prominent students, carried forward many of the political themes explored at the Academy while developing his own distinct perspective. In his work Politics, Aristotle examined the nature of the state, citizenship, and the various forms of government, offering a more empirical and pragmatic approach than Plato's idealism. While Aristotle diverged from Plato on key points, such as the feasibility of the philosopher-king, his analysis was deeply influenced by the philosophical foundation he received at the Academy. This intellectual lineage highlights the Academy's enduring impact on the evolution of political thought. The Academy also provided a framework for exploring the role of law in society. Plato's later work, the laws, proposed a detailed blueprint for a state governed by a combination of rational principles and practical regulations. This dialogue, which focused on the importance of legal structures in maintaining order and justice, became a subject of intense study and discussion at the Academy. Students were encouraged to consider how laws could balance the competing demands of individual freedom and collective responsibility. This exploration of legal philosophy added another dimension to the Academy's political thought, emphasizing the practical implications of abstract principles. One of the unique aspects of the Academy's approach to political thought was its emphasis on the interplay between theory and practice. While Plato's ideal state served as a theoretical model, the Academy also engaged with the realities of political life in Athens and other city-states. Students examined historical examples of governance, analyzing the successes and failures of various political systems. This comparative approach helped to ground the Academy's teachings in real-world contexts, making them relevant to contemporary debates about power, justice, and leadership. The Academy's contributions to political thought were not limited to governance and law. Plato's exploration of utopian ideals, such as the abolition of private property among the guardian class in the Republic, sparked discussions about economic systems and the distribution of resources. These ideas, while controversial, challenged students to think critically about the relationship between wealth, power, and social harmony. The Academy's willingness to address such provocative topics demonstrated its commitment to pushing the boundaries of political philosophy. The legacy of the Academy's political thought is evident in its influence on later intellectual traditions. The Renaissance and Enlightenment periods, in particular, saw a revival of interest in Platonic philosophy, with thinkers such as Thomas More, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau drawing on ideas from the Republic and the laws. The concept of the philosopher-king, while often criticized as utopian, inspired discussions about the role of wisdom and virtue in leadership. The Academy's integration of ethics, education, and governance set a precedent for interdisciplinary approaches to political theory. In summary, the Academy's role in political thought was profound, addressing fundamental questions about justice, leadership, and the structure of society. By combining theoretical models with practical analysis, the Academy created a framework for exploring the complexities of governance and human nature. Its teachings influenced not only its immediate students but also the broader intellectual traditions of the ancient and modern worlds. The Academy's legacy in political thought continues to inspire debates about the principles of justice, the responsibilities of rulers, and the possibilities of creating a more equitable society. Part 8. The Decline of the Academy. The decline of Plato's Academy was not a sudden event but a gradual process influenced by internal shifts, external challenges, and broader historical developments. Over its centuries-long existence, the Academy evolved, experiencing phases of transformation that marked its departure from Plato's original vision. While it began as a hub of philosophical inquiry and a model for education, changing intellectual currents and political pressures ultimately led to its weakening and eventual closure. Understanding the reasons behind the Academy's decline requires examining the complexities of its history and the context in which it operated. Following Plato's death in 347 BCE, leadership of the Academy passed to his nephew Speusippus. Speusippus brought his own perspective to the institution, diverging from some of Plato's core ideas, particularly in metaphysics and ethics. This shift marked the beginning of a trend where successive leaders of the Academy adapted its teachings to align with their own philosophical interpretations. While this flexibility allowed the Academy to remain dynamic, it also introduced tensions and departures from Plato's original framework. Over time, these internal changes altered the institution's focus and identity. Under Speusippus and his successors, including Xenocrates and Polemon, the Academy maintained its reputation as a leading center of learning. However, it began to face increasing competition from other philosophical schools, such as Aristotle's Lyceum, founded in 335 BCE. Aristotle's focus on empirical observation and logical analysis appealed to many students, offering an alternative to the abstract and metaphysical emphasis of the Academy. The emergence of Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Cynicism further diversified the intellectual landscape, drawing attention away from the Academy and fragmenting the once dominant position of Platonic philosophy. One of the most significant transformations in the Academy's history occurred during the Hellenistic period. By the 3rd century BCE, the institution had shifted its focus under the leadership of Arcesilaus, who introduced a skeptical approach to philosophy. This phase, often referred to as the Skeptical Academy, emphasized the impossibility of attaining certain knowledge. Arcesilaus argued that since absolute truth was unattainable, philosophers should suspend judgment and rely on probability in their reasoning. While this approach reinvigorated the academy in some ways, it also marked a departure from Plato's emphasis on the pursuit of eternal truths and the forms. The transition to skepticism attracted criticism from other philosophical schools and alienated some followers of traditional Platonism. The Stoics, in particular, clashed with the skeptical academy, advocating for the possibility of certain knowledge through reason and the natural order. These debates highlighted the growing divergence between philosophical traditions, with the academy increasingly positioned as one voice among many rather than the leading authority it had once been. This loss of preeminence contributed to its gradual decline, as rival schools gained prominence and expanded their influence. External factors also played a critical role in the academy's decline. The political turmoil of the Hellenistic and Roman periods disrupted intellectual life in Athens and other cultural centers. The Macedonian conquest of Greece and the subsequent rise of the Roman Republic introduced new dynamics that reshaped the philosophical landscape. As power shifted from city-states like Athens to larger empires, the patronage and support that had sustained institutions like the academy began to wane. Philosophers increasingly sought opportunities in Alexandria, Rome, and other emerging centers of learning, leading to a dispersion of intellectual talent. The Roman conquest of Greece in the 2nd century BCE further exacerbated these challenges. While many Roman elites admired Greek philosophy and supported its study, the cultural dominance of Rome often overshadowed the traditional schools of Athens. The academy, once a symbol of Athenian intellectual vitality, struggled to maintain its relevance in a world where new priorities and perspectives were shaping philosophical inquiry. The rise of pragmatic and utilitarian approaches to philosophy, such as those championed by the Stoics and Epicureans, further diminished the appeal of the academy's more abstract and speculative traditions. Despite these difficulties, the academy continued to adapt and evolve. During the 2nd century CE, it experienced a brief revival under the influence of Middle Platonism, a movement that sought to reconcile Platonic philosophy with other traditions, including Pythagoreanism and Stoicism. Middle Platonists such as Plutarch and Alcinous emphasized the spiritual and ethical dimensions of Plato's teachings, attracting new interest in the academy's legacy. However, this resurgence was short-lived, as the emergence of Neoplatonism in the 3rd century CE marked another significant shift. Neoplatonism, led by figures such as Plotinus, reinterpreted Plato's ideas through a mystical and metaphysical lens, emphasizing the unity of all existence and the soul's ascent to the divine. While Neoplatonism drew heavily from the teachings of the academy, it developed into a distinct philosophical system with its own institutions and leaders. The rise of Neoplatonism signaled the fragmentation of the Platonic tradition, as the academy became one voice among many in a diverse philosophical ecosystem. This diffusion of ideas, while intellectually enriching, further eroded the academy's position as a singular authority in philosophy. The final blow to the academy came in 529 CE, when the Byzantine Emperor Justinian ordered its closure. Justinian's edict was part of a broader effort to suppress pagan philosophies and promote Christianity as the dominant intellectual and spiritual framework of the empire. The closure of the academy marked the end of an era, as Athens ceased to be a major center of philosophical activity. Many of the academy's scholars fled to Persia or other regions, where they sought refuge and continued their work in exile. This diaspora ensured the survival of Platonic ideas, but also underscored the profound cultural and institutional shifts that had transformed the ancient world. The decline of the academy, however, did not mean the end of its influence. Through its texts, teachings, and intellectual legacy, the academy continued to shape the course of Western philosophy. The writings of Plato and his successors were preserved and studied by scholars in the Islamic world, the Byzantine Empire, and medieval Europe, laying the groundwork for the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. The academy's emphasis on dialogue, critical thinking, and the pursuit of knowledge remained a model for educational institutions and intellectual traditions across cultures and centuries. In summary, the decline of Plato's academy was a complex process shaped by internal evolution, external competition, and broader historical forces. While it eventually lost its preeminence and was formally closed in the 6th century CE, its legacy endured through the ideas it championed and the thinkers it inspired. The academy's history is a testament to the resilience of philosophical inquiry and the enduring impact of Plato's vision of education and intellectual exploration. Part 9. The Revival of the Academy under Neoplatonism. The revival of the academy under Neoplatonism was a remarkable chapter in its history, breathing new life into Platonic philosophy and re-establishing the institution as a key center of intellectual activity. Emerging in the 3rd century CE, Neoplatonism was a philosophical movement that reinterpreted and expanded upon Plato's teachings, emphasizing their metaphysical and mystical dimensions. This resurgence occurred during a period of cultural and religious transformation, as the ancient world grappled with the rise of Christianity and the decline of classical pagan traditions. In this context, the Neoplatonic revival of the Academy represented both a continuation of its philosophical legacy and a response to the changing intellectual landscape. The roots of Neoplatonism can be traced to Plotinus, a philosopher who synthesized Plato's ideas with influences from other traditions, including Pythagoreanism, Aristotelianism, and Eastern mysticism. Plotinus' work, compiled in the Enneads by his student Porphyry, emphasized the unity of all existence and the soul's ascent toward the divine source, or the One. This metaphysical framework, which placed a strong emphasis on the spiritual and transcendent aspects of reality, became the foundation of Neoplatonism and shaped its approach to Platonic philosophy. The Neoplatonic revival of the Academy began in earnest during the late 4th and early 5th centuries CE. Under the leadership of philosophers such as Plutarch of Athens, Syrianus, and Proclus, the Academy was re-established as a center for the study of Neoplatonism, attracting scholars and students from across the Mediterranean world. These thinkers sought to harmonize Plato's teachings with the prevailing religious and metaphysical currents of the time, integrating elements of Greek philosophy, Roman thought, and mystical traditions into a cohesive intellectual system. Proclus, one of the most influential figures of the Neoplatonic Academy, played a pivotal role in this revival. As a philosopher, theologian, and mathematician, Proclus sought to provide a comprehensive interpretation of Plato's works, emphasizing their cosmic and metaphysical dimensions. His commentaries on dialogues such as the Timaeus and the Republic offered new insights into Platonic thought, highlighting its relevance to questions of cosmology, ethics, and the nature of the divine. Proclus' synthesis of philosophy and spirituality reflected the Neoplatonic belief that the pursuit of knowledge was a sacred endeavor, capable of uniting the human soul with the divine. The Neoplatonic Academy also became a hub for interdisciplinary studies, incorporating subjects such as mathematics, astronomy, and theology into its curriculum. Neoplatonists viewed these disciplines as interconnected pathways to understanding the structure of the universe and the divine order that governed it. For example, mathematics was seen not merely as a practical tool, but as a means of apprehending the eternal truths that underpinned reality. This approach resonated with Plato's original vision for the Academy, while also reflecting the Neoplatonic emphasis on the spiritual significance of knowledge. One of the defining features of the Neoplatonic Academy was its engagement with religious thought. As the Roman Empire became increasingly Christianized, Neoplatonists sought to reconcile their philosophical system with the dominant religious paradigm. While some, like Proclus, adhered to traditional pagan beliefs, others explored ways to integrate Platonic ideas into Christian theology. This synthesis of philosophy and religion enriched the intellectual life of the Academy, fostering dialogue between different traditions and expanding the scope of its teachings. The Neoplatonic Academy also played a significant role in preserving and transmitting classical knowledge. As political instability and cultural shifts threatened the survival of ancient texts and traditions, the Academy became a bastion of learning, dedicated to safeguarding the works of Plato, Aristotle, and other classical authors. Neoplatonist philosophers not only studied and interpreted these texts but also ensured their transmission to future generations through meticulous copying and commentary. This commitment to preservation helped to bridge the gap between the classical and medieval worlds, influencing the intellectual developments of the Islamic Golden Age and the European Renaissance. Despite its contributions, the Neoplatonic Academy faced significant challenges. The rise of Christianity as the dominant religion of the Roman Empire created tensions between pagan philosophers and Christian authorities. These tensions came to a head in 529 CE, when the Byzantine Emperor Justinian issued an edict closing all pagan schools, including the Academy. This act marked the end of the Academy as an institutional entity, forcing its scholars to flee and continue their work in exile. Many sought refuge in Persia, where they found support at the court of the Sasanian Empire and contributed to the flourishing of intellectual exchange in the region. The closure of the Academy did not mean the end of Neoplatonism or its influence. The works of Neoplatonic philosophers continued to be studied and adapted by Christian theologians, Islamic scholars, and medieval thinkers. Figures such as Augustine of Hippo, Thomas Aquinas, and Avicenna drew upon Neoplatonic ideas to develop their own philosophical and theological frameworks. This enduring legacy highlights the profound impact of the Neoplatonic revival on the history of Western thought. The Neoplatonic Academy's emphasis on the unity of existence, the ascent of the soul, and the interconnection of disciplines left a lasting imprint on philosophical and spiritual traditions. Its integration of Platonic philosophy with mystical and religious elements provided a model for exploring the relationship between reason and faith, a theme that would resonate throughout the medieval and Renaissance periods. The Academy's interdisciplinary approach, which bridged the gap between science, mathematics, and metaphysics, also influenced the development of early modern science and the search for universal principles. In summary, the Neoplatonic revival of the Academy represented a critical phase in its history, blending Plato's teachings with the spiritual and intellectual currents of late antiquity. Under the leadership of figures such as Plotinus and Proclus, the Academy became a center for exploring the metaphysical and mystical dimensions of philosophy, contributing to the preservation and transmission of classical knowledge. Despite its eventual closure, the Neoplatonic Academy's legacy endured, shaping the intellectual traditions of subsequent eras and demonstrating the enduring relevance of Platonic thought. Part 10. The Legacy of Plato's Academy. The legacy of Plato's Academy is profound and enduring, resonating through centuries as a beacon of intellectual pursuit, philosophical exploration, and educational innovation. Though the Academy as an institution ceased to exist after its closure by Emperor Justinian in 529 CE, its influence continued to shape the trajectory of Western thought, bridging the classical, medieval, and modern worlds. The ideas cultivated within the Academy, dialogue, critical reasoning, and the pursuit of universal truths, laid the groundwork for many aspects of contemporary education, philosophy, and scientific inquiry. One of the most significant aspects of the Academy's legacy is its role in establishing philosophy as a formal discipline. Before Plato's time, philosophy was largely the domain of individual thinkers, and its practice was informal and often fragmented. By institutionalizing philosophical study, Plato created a model for intellectual inquiry that emphasized structure, community, and rigor. This model became the blueprint for later centers of learning, from Aristotle's Lyceum to the medieval universities of Europe. The Academy demonstrated that philosophy was not just a solitary endeavor but a collaborative pursuit that thrived in a shared intellectual environment. The Academy's emphasis on dialogue and critical thinking remains a cornerstone of modern education. Plato's method of questioning assumptions, exploring contradictions, and seeking deeper understanding through conversation has influenced teaching practices across disciplines. The Socratic method, as it came to be known, is still widely used in law, philosophy, and liberal arts education to encourage analytical thinking and reasoned debate. This approach, rooted in the Academy's teachings, underscores the importance of active engagement and intellectual curiosity in the learning process. Another enduring legacy of the Academy is its interdisciplinary approach to knowledge. Plato's integration of philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and ethics reflected his belief in the interconnectedness of all fields of study. This holistic perspective inspired the development of the liberal arts tradition, which emphasizes the importance of a broad-based education in cultivating well-rounded individuals. The Academy's approach to knowledge also influenced the scientific revolution, as thinkers like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton built upon the foundations of Platonic and Aristotelian thought. The Academy's legacy thus extends beyond philosophy to encompass the broader intellectual framework that underpins modern science and education. The preservation and transmission of Platonic philosophy were among the most crucial aspects of the Academy's impact. After its closure, the texts and ideas developed within the Academy were preserved by scholars in the Byzantine Empire, the Islamic world, and later Renaissance Europe. These intellectual traditions ensured that Plato's works remained central to the study of philosophy and informed subsequent developments in metaphysics, ethics, and political theory. The Academy's role as a repository of classical knowledge helped bridge the gap between antiquity and the modern era, influencing key thinkers such as Augustine, Aquinas, and Descartes. The Academy's contributions to political thought also left a lasting mark. Plato's exploration of justice, governance, and the ideal state inspired debates about the nature of power, authority, and the responsibilities of rulers. The concept of the philosopher-king, while often dismissed as utopian, served as a provocative model for considering the role of wisdom and virtue in leadership. This idea influenced political theorists from the Renaissance to the Enlightenment, shaping discussions about the relationship between knowledge and governance. The Academy's integration of ethics and politics demonstrated that philosophy could address practical concerns and contribute to the betterment of society. Neoplatonism, which revived and expanded upon the Academy's teachings, further cemented its legacy in the realms of philosophy, religion, and mysticism. The Neoplatonic emphasis on the unity of existence, the ascent of the soul, and the interconnection of all things enriched the spiritual and intellectual traditions of late antiquity and the medieval world. Thinkers such as Plotinus, Proclus, and later Renaissance philosophers like Marsilio Ficino drew upon the Academy's teachings to explore the relationship between reason, faith, and the divine. This fusion of Platonic philosophy with religious thought contributed to the development of Christian, Islamic, and Jewish mystical traditions. The Academy's legacy is also evident in its influence on modern education systems. The very concept of the university, with its emphasis on critical thinking, interdisciplinary study, and the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, owes much to the model established by the Academy. Plato's vision of education as a transformative journey, one that cultivates both the mind and the character, continues to inspire educators and institutions worldwide. The Academy's commitment to intellectual freedom and the exploration of fundamental questions remains a guiding principle for academic and philosophical communities. The idea of the Academy as a place of learning and dialogue also resonates in contemporary philosophical and scientific organizations. Institutions dedicated to fostering collaboration and innovation often draw inspiration from the Academy's emphasis on shared inquiry and the exchange of ideas. From think tanks to research institutes, the spirit of Plato's Academy lives on in spaces that prioritize intellectual exploration and the advancement of knowledge. These modern incarnations reflect the enduring relevance of the Academy's approach to education and its potential to address the challenges of the present and future. The Academy's influence extends beyond academic and intellectual contexts, shaping broader cultural and societal values. Its emphasis on the pursuit of truth, the importance of ethical reflection, and the interconnectedness of knowledge has inspired movements that seek to integrate philosophy into everyday life. The Academy's teachings remind us that philosophy is not confined to abstract speculation, but is a practical and transformative tool for understanding the world and our place within it. This holistic vision continues to resonate in contemporary efforts to promote critical thinking, ethical leadership, and lifelong learning. In summary, the legacy of Plato's Academy is vast and multifaceted, encompassing contributions to philosophy, education, science, politics, and culture. By institutionalizing the study of philosophy, promoting dialogue and critical thinking, and integrating diverse fields of knowledge, the Academy set the standard for intellectual inquiry and learning. Its influence, preserved through the works of its scholars and the traditions it inspired, continues to shape the way we think about knowledge, truth, and the human experience. The Academy's enduring legacy is a testament to the transformative power of education and the timeless relevance of Plato's vision.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the story of Plato's Academy, the world's first university. Its focus on knowledge, dialogue, and pursuit of truth shaped education and philosophy for generations. Even after centuries, its ideas continue to inspire thinkers and learners worldwide. At BM Research, we love exploring the past to uncover stories that connect us to today's world. If you enjoyed learning about the Academy and its legacy, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating insights. Together, let's keep the spirit of curiosity alive. See you in the next story.